crafty friend, it's me, Justine Dvorak from Stationery by Justine, where when I craft, my world stands still. Today I'm going to show you how I better press with a wonderful Press-Tacular plate from Crafty Meraki, and how I'm going to use a stencil. So here I have my Better Press machine all ready to go. I'm going to use Better Press black ink. Then I'm going to take my whole Better Press machine and put it right over onto my die cutting machine. Run it through. I do keep that off camera because I have an 8.5 inch one and it is really big. But there it is. It is that easy to better press, and I just love better pressing. So we're going to do that one more time just in case you need another example. So I'm going to put the plate kind of offset a couple times here because I'm going to make two cards. One will be for the main part of this video, and then I'll show you the end result of the other one. But this one I'm going to position coming down from the top. Now this is not how it's going to be on my finished project, but I'm going to use the layering stencil that coordinates with this plate and also the coordinating die. So I want it to fit on my A2 size of paper just so I can get the entire image onto my plate and onto my paper. So there it is. It is a really beautiful plate. I love the blossoms and I love how easy the stencil is to use. So we're going to use that stencil and make something so beautiful. Plus I'm going to make a fun watercolor background. But before I go ahead and put my plate away, I am going to clean it off. Better Press ink and Press-Tacular plates are a match made in heaven, if you will. And I like to keep mine looking really great by cleaning them immediately after I use them. And you can see how easy that was to clean off and how shiny and new it looks again. And then I like to wipe down my Better Press with the same rag. I do have a piece of acetate over my Better Press machine right there, so it is very, very easy to clean up. I've been better pressing for I think about 2 years now. I got the machine before it was released, and I am just loving all of the press plates that have been released from so many different companies, and this was my first press plate. That was the Press-Tacular plate from Crafty Meraki, so I was very pleased with how it pressed out. Now this blossom stencil that coordinates with this Press-Tacular plate is just so easy to use, so let's get right into that. On the stencils you can see that there are some guidelines if you were to use the stencil with the press plate, as it would be lined up perfectly. Now remember, I had mine coming directly from the top going down. So I am going to simply line up my stencil with the image and not have any of the grids showing. So I just have to kind of rotate it until it fits that design perfectly. And you can see that those flowers nest in there just so. Now I am using a stamp wheel that has a grid mat underneath it there. So the stencil is held on just so, and it is not going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to grab some oxide inks. I like to use oxides, especially with Better Press paper. The thick cotton paper I think really does well with the oxides. So I'm going to grab my little ink holder there and start with spun sugar. Then I'm going to just move this all over on my stencil, and you can see how fast it is to add color to this image. Stencils are so fun and an easy way to add color if you don't like Copic coloring, or if you don't like watercoloring or using colored pencils. Stencils can be a very fun and quick and really pretty way to add color to your images. You just have to line it up, grab a color you like, and rub the color on. It's really that easy. Now I'm going to add the second plate here. Just press it down. Very simple to line that up as well. This one I'm going to use Worn Lipstick, which is kind of a pink red. And I'm really going to make sure that it's nice and dark and saturated because I like that it will contrast with the spun sugar. These blossoms are usually like pink and light and white, and this worn lipstick will dry a little bit lighter. So typically it's kind of a red, but it will subdue a little bit. I almost have all of my flowers colored, and it's only been a few minutes. Now this stencil is, I think, my favorite part about the stencil pack. This is going to add all of the details to the flowers and finish off all of the rest of the coloring. So this is for all the little blossoms and the buds and the detailed lines that are going on the big flowers. So I'm going to grab picked raspberry and just smush that all over. I love how this is looking. Picked raspberry is one of my favorite oxide colors. That took seconds. And there we go. Look at the detail on those flowers. I am so in love with this. Just give it a little wave for it to dry a bit, but it doesn't matter. I'll put my next stencil on the top of the branch. So for this plant or this tree or blossom, I really wanted to make sure it was lined up, so I did move it down so I could get a good look at it, but I will move it back for you. These blossoms, I went kind of the brown orange for the branch. So I'm going to use Wild Honey, and this is going to be my main color, and I know it looks a lot right now. It looks very yellow, but trust the process on this one. Again, it will fade out once it's dry a little bit. It looks like a Cheeto right now. But when I put the next color on, it's going to be... So this happens to me sometimes. I'll think I'm ready to move on, but actually I'm going to go back with that stencil I just used. Because it is looking so orange, I just want to mute it a little bit. Make it a little more demure and less Cheeto. So I'm going to take a little rag, wipe off any extras, and I'm grabbing my brown blending brush that has whatever brown was left on it. I don't want to grab a new color because I don't want to get rid of that all the way, but I am just going to subdue it a little. See, that looks better already. Okay, the last stencil here, I'm going to go in with Vintage Photo. Now this will add all of the rest of the details to my branch. Here we go. A nice deep brown. Fun fact, Vintage Photo was the first oxide color that I brought to my craft room. Look at that. Now I'm going to hit the top part with those little buds and I will be finished. Really getting all those little details is going to make this pop. Love that. Now there is a coordinating die, like I said, so look at this. Just pop it over. I'm going to line it up with some tape just so it does not wiggle around in my die cutting machine. That would be such a shame to press and do all the stenciling for it to be cut incorrectly. So I'm really taking my time to line everything up and make sure that my tape is not going on top of any of the flowers that I just worked on. That is a little bit wet from the oxide. I don't want it to peel off. So I'm just touching it to the die and the background paper. And look at this. I love intricate dies. It cut even in between the branches. I mean, that is just perfect. I love when dies do this. Something that I cannot get with my scan and cut machine. At least I have not been able to do that. So I'm thrilled that that cut out so intricately. I'll just take a little tool and pop out those areas. Look at those little details. This is what I'm talking about. I love that. All right, now to work on my background. I like to be a little artsy in my craft room. So I'm going to take the top part of my stamp wheel and just grab Blueprint Sketch. I'm sorry that was so fast, but the dark color is Blueprint Sketch and the light color is Salty Ocean. And I'm just going to spray it with the craft spray bottle and just do some smushing. Now this, there's really no rhyme to the reason for this. Just getting color on wherever. I am using a watercolor paper. And this is just getting like one background layer going. And I did not want it to look too one color. I wanted it to have quite a lot of dimension. So I'm going to soak up as much of that ink that I can. Just do a couple more smushes. And then I'm going to make it dry. Now, you could be patient and set that aside and let it dry naturally. Or you could use a heat gun, which is what I like to do. So I'll just clean this up. Super fast and easy cleanup. And then I'm going to add a little bit more blueprint sketch, I decided, because I do want it to be darker. But spoiler, this was not dark enough. So I am going to dry it and go in with some watercolor paints. Now, I really like to use what I have in my craft room. So if you're going to remake this card and you maybe don't have watercolor paints or anything, if you have kids, try using like just your regular Crayola watercolors, or use some water-based markers and do some ink smushing. It does not have to be expensive or fancy. I'm just going to use some of my watercolors and just smush it on, but I'm going to really make it dark. So I'm using some of my dark blues and teals. I love teal and blue with pinks and fuchsia, so that is kind of the color palette I was going for here. And I know that looks kind of aggressive for a background, but it's going to be fine. Like I said, everything dries a little lighter. I did take my paintbrush there and do a little bit of splatter just for fun. And when I did that, I did want to move my press plate because I don't want to get any splatter on my beautiful blossom. All right, now that has all dried. So we will pop this beautiful blossom onto the background. I use some foam tape there, and it will just go at an angle. Then I'm going to chop off the extra just with my paper trimmer. Nothing fancy. You could use a scissors if you want. And then let's talk about the sentiments I'm using on this card and my next one. They are so cool. This is my first impression of the Gilded Expressions, the Effortless Shimmer paper from Crafty Meraki. They have the paper pack that you can just simply take and die cut out. You could take and toner foil with that, or they have a coordinating Press-Tacular plate which you can press with or foil with the hot foil. So I really think that that is such a cool way to have your products kind of work together. Now I'm going to finish off this card with some beautiful embellishments. Those are the Flutter Fancy Azure. I have the yellow, which is the buttercream as well, and I really like the yellow buttercream. You're going to see those on some projects for me in the future. Here's a look at another card I made with the same press plate. I pressed that out twice and used the same color inks or oxides for my stencil, and added those blue butterflies and used Happy Birthday from the same sentiment pack as the Miss You. So I really enjoyed making these two cards. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I really appreciate you watching today. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye, crafty friend.